I'll start in Silicon Valley and then pivot back to
Yeah.
the early days. I started therapy, I think around maybe 2019, 2020. And one of the things, it was a Black woman therapist. One of the things that I took away from my first session, she said something that was profound. And she said, the skills and tools you needed to survive, you don't need anymore. And so this level of independence, this level of like, I can do all things by myself, you needed that to survive as a kid. But today you don't. And so if you don't shed those skin, if you don't let those things go, you will find yourself still struggling.
A growing health, wellness, and leadership podcast designed for you to become your most empowered self.
Great day, amazing humans. Welcome to the Empowered in My Skin podcast, where our mission is to help 1 billion people in this world think in more empowering ways. Empowered humans empower humans. So you are the right spot to become a lead domino for empowerment today. So let the show begin. Great day, amazing humans. And yes, welcome to the next episode of Empowered in My Skin, the podcast. So for all you YouTubers, I know you can see the amazing human that I'm actually looking at right now. But to anyone that's listening, today's guest is truly a force of nature. I had the pleasure of meeting them on the continent of Africa at GITEX Morocco, or no, it was GITEX Africa in Morocco that took place when was that? April? Anyway, they are a refugee turned global tech leader, strategist at YouTube, which totally fascinated me because I was like, oh my God, that's like the coolest job. And a champion for African innovation. From surviving civil war to shaping the digital future, our guest is bringing Silicon Valley and Silicon Savannah with purpose and power. He leads with heart, builds with vision, and still finds time to scuba dive and rock climb. And so get ready for a story that is as bold as it is brilliant. I remember listening to him, like, I think I closed my mouth, but I felt like my mouth was like open and on the floor, like just completely captivated by his story and his a bit like his brilliance in storytelling. So really, really excited to have him on this platform. So please join me in a big, gigantic, huge podcast welcome for Augustine
Woo! that was impressive. I did not expect that. That was impressive.
Wiah. What did you expect? You're
I don't
brilliant.
know. I expected, like reading, but like the character got into it. The energy was there. Wow. I need to meet this guy.
Right? Isn't that how you're supposed to feel after like somebody reads your bio? Like
Yes.
I usually say, "My God, who's that girl? Who's that
Yes.
girl?"
I need to meet Augustine. So let's go talk to him.
Let's go talk to him today. I love it. I love it. And so a little bit of B-roll. We're gonna just hitch over to the side. We're both. He had his Masai blanket on his chair, and I was like, "Whoa, is that custom?" And he said, "No, it's just my blanket." And I was like, "But I have a blanket." He's like, "Go and get your blanket." So we're both blanketing, and I'm keeping
You
it.
you have you have to get the Masai blanket when you have it. You have to
Right,
show it every day, daily.
right.
And yeah, for me, it was just my 2025 kind of statement, given all
Yeah.
the things that's happening. Just like I'm here. I could be loud about it, but I'm here. And you will see this. If you want to meet with me, you might ask a question about it, and I'll tell you, but you can't help it. You have to look at it.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, just maybe don't come to the meeting with me, I guess.
And I think that's what I really loved about that you shared. And I just want to double click on that before I go to my first question. But it's like we're so much in this virtual world. And I think the essence of what you shared, which made me actually run upstairs and go and get, and by the way, these are authentic because they're both from Kenya, was that you said like you're going to be virtual and the space that you're in should reflect who you are as a human being.
And I mean, let me tell you this.
Tell
You
me.
can see you can see behind me.
Mhm.
I intentionally wanted my background to be surrounded by faces of Black women. And
Mm.
so when you look at the art behind me, not only are there portraits from Black photographers, but they are of Black women. And they are Black
Mm.
women in beautiful, sexy state, reflective state, mothering, caring state.
Mhm.
And so the environment completely matters. And
Mhm.
I come to this office, I'm in my home, I work remote, and it can be daunting to just sit in the room and just sit here, do it all year, do
Mhm.
it 24 hours a day. But when I walk in this room, I always feel a semblance of comfort. To
Mhm.
my left, there are other two black faces, black women.
Mhm.
Mandela is here. And
Mm.
so you have to surround yourself with things that
Mhm.
hopefully remind you
Uplift you.
and uplift you
Mhm.
to do the things that you care about. And sometimes
Mhm.
you won't care about the core work. Other times
Mhm.
you will come in here with emotions from outside.
Mhm.
And if the space is set up to keep you coming, then at least when you're sitting here, you can reflect, you can think, and hopefully make one step, one progress as you go. So that's my thinking about it. People come and like, oh, your art. I'm like, yes, it's beautiful. I know, because when you know dope things, that's just what it is. It's not surprising, but it was intentional to have specifically dark black women
Mhm.
in art
Yeah.
behind me, around me.
Yeah. I'm gonna say something else too, because right now I changed the configuration of my office. So my desk used to be on that side. And so there are two beautiful arts here. One by artists. You got to check them out. Benny Bing. So shout outs to Benny Bing. Benny Bing, Bing. But it's called the Kandake.
Kandake.
And
What does
yeah,
that
and
mean?
it's a woman of countenance and strength and character. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. And then I have another one called Maya. And Maya was like a quiet force, because it's funny because her image, she's facing this way. But it's like you see gentleness, you see like quietness, maybe mistaken meekness, but don't get it twisted. That face turns and it's strength and it's right. And so what I didn't realize at the time during COVID, when I put the pictures up finally, because I recognized my background was blank, I was struggling with self-doubt.
Wow.
And so every day I had in my vision Kendake and Maya. And I was getting coached one day by this amazing coach called Naki. So shout out to Naki. And she said, go and stand beside the picture behind you that gives you the most amount of strength. And I went to the Kendake. And that's when we looked it up. And I found out it was Benny Bing and it was Kendake. And that's where I got that's when I understood what the Kendake what meant. And when I say to you, the fact that I looked at it every single day through my camera, I promise you, 6, 7, 8 months down the line, just seamlessly to me, doubt went away. Like the imposter syndrome, there's nothing imposter about me. You know
I
what I
mean,
mean? God,
that's the power of art.
right.
And oftentimes people don't get to experience the benefit of it because we're so used to just moving about daily in our lives. My house is surrounded in art.
Mm,
I started becoming a collector maybe
wow.
3, 4 years
Well,
ago.
that's awesome.
And we talk about one of the projects that I'm working on down the road. But yeah, for me, it was just like, okay, I like something, but I want it to inspire me daily. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, art consumption can seem or can be portrayed as a thing of money, but you
Mm-hmm.
can find beauty in art,
Mm-hmm.
in any
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
art. And
Mm-hmm.
so, whether it's the trees, the plants, the gardens, or just walking, getting outside, there's so much beauty in nature. And just given the way my life has shaped or was shaped, I look to nature for some of those things. And I remember, I don't even know where this came from, but I had this analogy that I would use and say the animals don't panic when the seasons change. Like birds need the leaves to protect their nest,
Mm-hmm.
but the winter comes and they're bare and they're exposed and it's
Mm-hmm.
colder, but
Mm-hmm.
they understand these are seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And so when
Mm-hmm.
you're going through life, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's you're in the valley or you're lower, you
Mm-hmm.
have to understand, you have to look at some people look at the circadian
Mm-hmm.
rhythm, but nature gives you all.
Right.
We're in spring. I live in Charlotte, North
Right.
Carolina. My trees are like full blown green. The grass is green. But 4 months ago, it wasn't. And you
Yeah.
have to just understand in
There's
this
a
moment,
cycle. There's a
in this
cycle.
time,
Yeah.
perhaps the more aware you are, you can develop the skills and
Mm-hmm.
tools you need in that moment. And art gives you that. Because in art, there's a static thing that never changes and it helps remind you. I bought a piece from a Cameroonian artist, original piece named Ceci. I went to an exhibition in San Francisco, and there was this boy. Like his signature is big poppy eyes, one big poppy eye, and there was this dark skinned black boy just with a salute and the smile that's just stuck on his
Mm-hmm.
face. And I saw it. I loved it. I didn't have the money to pay for it. But, I'll tell you one secret sauce. If you know the artist, reach out to them and let them know how much you care about their art.
And they
You
give you
might
free art?
No, you pay for it.
Okay.
You pay for it, but you pay
At a
for it
reduced cost?
at the artist's rate.
At
'Cause
an artist
the
rate.
thing is, if you see
Ah.
an art in a museum,
Yeah.
there's a 75% markup because
Yeah.
the museum got to get it cut.
Yeah.
The distributor or like the representative, everybody got to get their cut. So the
Yeah.
artist is probably seeing about 20-25% of that value.
Yeah.
But if you
So they'd
talk to
rather
the
you
artist
buy
themselves,
directly from them. Yeah.
they can sell you their art direct. And so that's
Yeah.
what I've been doing with the few pieces that I have. But it was just magical. And I look at that piece every day. You can't wipe the smile away from that young boy.
Yeah.
It's stuck in art. And I get reminded about that. And obviously, like the emotions change when I engage
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm just growing in that space to
I
love
love
and
that.
appreciate art.
I love that.
One of
Do me
the
a favor,
other,
check out Benny Bing.
Benny Bang. I'll check it
Yeah,
out. I'll check it out.
BENNYBING. He's actually Nigerian. Yeah, check him out. Yeah.
African art is
Yeah. Yeah.
not on the rise, but having a resurgence.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it.
Yeah.
B-E
Benny,
and
Benny,
and
BENNY, Bing,
why?
BING. Yeah. Brilliant. So I love the organicness. So I'm gonna just ask you, what is the most empowering thought that you've had of the day so far?
Today,
Yeah, this day.
I woke up happy.
Oh.
And in part because I had like some heavy, past few days just dealing with my own emotions in my head. But my team won last night. We're 2-0 in the Western Conference Final, Oklahoma
Oh
City.
gosh.
I'm wearing the jersey.
By the way, I'm just
You
gonna
know.
say this. We had a previously scheduled podcast interview, and I was it the day of?
It was the day of. To be fair, it was game 7 of the Western Conference Finals. And I wouldn't have been in the good mood. Had
I
we
hear
lost,
you. He said I would have been. No, he was very honest. He said I would have been distracted during the interview.
I just wouldn't. And so I rather just let you know and look at where we are. We are in the finals.
We are.
We're 2 games up. I'm in a great mood and I'm happy. And you asked me about what thought did I have today. Probably not today, but over the past couple of days, my nephew graduated high school and I turned 35 2 Sundays ago, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
happy. What was that date?
May
May
4th.
Oh yeah, I think I told
so
you
about
mine
two
was
and a
May
half.
4th. May the 4th be with you. My
Yeah.
anniversary. Yeah. Mhm.
And so I'm getting to that point where I'm a real uncle. I've always been an uncle, but I'm an uncle to college going nephews.
Yeah,
And then my
yeah.
niece graduated from the 5th grade, and so there's a lot of reflectionary moments when I have all of their pictures on my phone, so I can just with a tap scroll to see when Aliyah, my favorite human in the world, was saying vanilla for vanilla. And I've been around some of my friends are parents, and they talk about capturing and relishing those moments when a child voice or speech is different, because the moment is gone, you can't get it back. The moment she says, oh my God, vanilla ice cream, and that goes away and she recognizes it's vanilla, you would never hear vanilla.
Yeah.
And so I've just been in this grateful, positive state. Nephew going to college, I'm excited for that. Niece going to middle school. And funny enough, I was watching a short Instagram video on cell phone uses with kids. And my niece got grounded and her mom took away her phone. And unlike any other 10-year-old, she's thriving and she actually doesn't mind her grounding time being longer because she's reading more.
Wow.
My sister sends me a picture of her meditating on the trampoline in the backyard.
Wow.
And
Okay.
it's like you take away the phone, you take away the toys, and she's making her own breakfast at 10. She's like climbing on the roof window to read and sit there and like take in like the trees around her. And so
But that takes a certain upbringing, because there are a lot of kids that losing their phone would be like tantrum and life altering, right?
Yes.
So I love that. I love that.
It's just been a very like positive kind of few days and hours
Yeah.
leading up to today. And so,
Yeah.
not specifically a thought today, but I came into the day
Yeah.
recognizing that I'm in a happy mood. And so
Yeah. I
that was the
love
point.
that.
Yeah.
I love that. So I want to, what captivated me about you, and I think is just so profound, is you told your story about from refugee camp to sort of where you are now, like Silicon Valley leader. And I don't want to give it any more than that. I'd love you to tell that story the way you love to tell it the most, so that we can, yeah, we can get to know you better.
Yeah. So I'll start in Silicon Valley and then pivot back to
Yeah.
the early days. I started therapy, I think, around maybe 2019, 2020. And one of the things, it was a Black woman therapist. One of the things that I took away from my first session, she said something that was profound. And she said, the skills and tools you needed to survive, you don't need anymore. And so this level of independence, this level of like, I can do all things by myself, you needed that to survive as a kid. But today you don't. And so if you don't shed those skin, if you don't let those things go, you will find yourself still struggling. And so I'm not saying that to say that I've shed all the skin, but it's just a really good point to think about my journey and my narrative because when I was 3 years old, we had to flee the Liberian Civil War. And no 3-year-old wake up and think about fleeing. And there's something about memory that really sticks with you when trauma happens. And sometimes, I struggle with, are they real memories or are they just made up memories? Because I remember I loved school and I still do, even though I don't see myself going back to organic school. But we had a good life. And a demarcation of that good life, my mom has a picture of us in 1992, and there was a solar panel in the yard in 1992, Monrovia, Liberia. White picket fence, grass is all green, you can walk barefoot, big yard. So life was good. If you look at history and people show you archives and pictures, you can deduce from certain things how people were living at the time. And so it cemented in my mind the memory I had about going to school with my dad holding my hands. So
Mhm.
if they were made up, then it was a really good made up to match that
Mhm.
narrative. But life was good. And then suddenly it wasn't. You start to figure out this is not what I'm used to. And so we fled the war. My dad was in the government or working in some high role. And so if you are in a war environment, for folks who haven't experienced it, typically the establishment is what is targeted. And so anyone that has the potential to inspire or work with administrations to orchestrate whatever, they come after you to dismantle that and then whatever happens next. And so at an early age, I was displaced in this kind of movement filled world. I remember my dad also helped me with this memory. We went to my grandfather's village. We were there for like maybe 2 or 3 weeks and then ended up fleeing, over the St. Paul River. That's the river connecting Ivory Coast to Liberia. But Ivory Coast is French speaking. Are English speaking. Sierra Leone is English speaking, but the war came from that region. So Ghana had a dedicated land by the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, UNHCR for short. And so that's where we fled. My mom is Ghanaian. She's half Ghanaian, half Liberian. And so it kind of made sense, I guess, for the adults at the time to move there on the refugee camp. But when I started to recognize that I was a living kid, I was in the refugee camp and that's where life started. And so today people are able to see the lives of refugees. People didn't see the lives of refugees back in the 90s.
Mm.
And I remember there were just moments of terror, like that just happened every day or like every month. We had this bulletin up front in the, I guess, like the center of the camp. And I share more about that experience with you here that I don't share in other places. But almost every month or so, you see like a missing person will go, it's like, oh, this person is missing. And then 2 weeks later, you will see a picture of their dismembered body trying to ask people to identify if this was their family member. And so I talk about how expendable you are when your civility is taken away as refugees. If people needed sacrifices and they needed like human sacrifices, who's expendable? Buduburum refugee camp. Go pick up somebody. The world doesn't care about these people. And so life was pretty much that. There's a innocence of being a kid and you don't really fully understand some of the complexities and the constraints that you have as a refugee. And then there was the agonizing reality of growth. Because as you
Mm.
start growing, you start recognizing your limitations. And for me in particular, some of those limitations came through school. I've always been sort of a nerd or something like that. And so to find myself in a Silicon Valley space years later, it's not all that surprising. But I loved school and I I got a promotion from what kindergarten 1 to first grade, and there was kindergarten 2 that I skipped. And then when I was in 5th grade, the teachers was like, "Yeah, I don't know if 6th grade is going to do you any good. So we're just going to take it to the 7th grade." And I've always kind of been that kid just excited about learning, but then when you're a refugee on a refugee camp, what do you do with that? And so my mom early on, identified some of my gifts and she put me in computer school because I was just curious about it. I was just like,
Okay.
hey, the world is changing. There's this thing called typewriter and computers. Remember when you used to pay for internet cafe at an internet cafe? Yes. So like we'll get like some money. I'll go to the internet cafe, pay my money for 60 minutes of internet time. It's actually kind of wild.
Yeah.
Like thinking about it, right? The ubiquity of internet today is so crazy from when I was 7, 8,
But
9.
there's still pockets of that when you think
There
about it. Like
is.
you pay for it on the plane.
There
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
pay for it on the plane, but I
Yeah.
think there are even actual places where people are still doing that.
Yes.
But that was transformational for me because I
Yeah.
could communicate, I could look up things, I could Google stuff, maybe not Google at the time. Um, and all of that really kind of resonated and it kind of piqued my interest. And I was always going. And I think some guy told my mom, like, hey, Charity, that's my mom's name. You should get this boy into like typing school because like typing is the thing. So she got me enrolled in a
And where
typewriting
would you have been at this point?
Budaburum refugee camp.
Okay. Still. Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
still in the camp. Like
Okay.
I didn't leave the camp from 93 to 2006. So 13 years of my life was
Wow.
spent in a
Okay.
refugee camp.
Okay.
I grew up. Like I came into adolescence or adolescence, as to call it. And so to make a long story short, my mom leaned into that because she trusted that if I liked it and it was
Mhm.
about education in school, like I would do well. So she put me into a typing school. And then I graduated from that. And the teacher said, you should get him into computer typing because that's the future. And I remember there
Computer
were,
typing.
computer typing was the future, right? Like not,
Okay.
not on the typewriter. And so I remember there was a program called Mavis Beacon. And I'm
Okay.
sure many people who started typing on the computer use that. And it had a thing. It's almost like the quick brown fox jump over the
Yeah,
lake.
I remember that. Yeah. 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 Mhm.
But in Mavis Bacon, they had a thing that became a life's mantra till today. They tell you to type accuracy is better than speed. So
Mhm.
when you're typing, usually like once you kind of like pick up on some things, you try to type too fast.
Mhm.
But the words that you were typing was accuracy is better than speed. And what it was doing in a literal and metaphorical sense is if you slow down and do things the right way,
Yeah.
eventually you will
You speed up.
become the best at it.
Yeah.
And because it's so familiar, you will end
Mhm.
up doing it faster
Yeah.
than the average person who is not
Mhm.
putting it. I mean, like there's all these metaphors that correlate. Kobe talked about you not shooting in the gym with me, or like the 10,000 hours. It was the same thing happening. And so from there, my mom put me into computer school. When I was 11, I would go from Budaburam refugee camp to Accra. I don't know the miles, maybe like 34 kilometers or something as a kid, 11 years old. So putting my life at risk, right?
Mm.
In pursuit of education and in hope that someday this education would pan into something. On top of all of that, my dad is missing. He left us in the 1997, which led to a lot of traumatic experiences for us and for my mother. So there's this entire world on the compounding impact of insecurity,
Yeah.
like literally being insecure, not internally, but also internally. Because as a kid, I stuttered. So this
Mm.
what we're doing here,
Wow.
this
Was
this
not.
this is a miracle.
Okay.
If you
Okay.
see my 11-year-old
Mhm.
self, this is a miracle. I couldn't speak. I couldn't say things clearly.
If I can
You
just
know,
pause for a second, there are some incredible orators in this world, like Maya Angelou, silent for how many years and stuttered. TD Jakes, apparently stuttered, right? Like I think like those are magnificent stories. So
yeah.
wow.
And I still do, but it's now like, oh, the guy at Google and
Yeah.
he's like thinking about what he's trying to say, right? But as a kid who doesn't have a father around, growing up and watching your friends go missing every day,
Mhm.
going to dumpster to like pick up tin cans to build cars, playing in dirt, swimming in like dirt ponds, just being a kid. And then when you needed money, what do? You're a boy. You got to go work. You go sell kerosene, you go sell ice blocks, you sell Kool-Aid, you sell like food in the market, you push wheelbarrows, you do all these things. And it's normal that because that's life. Everyone else around you is going through the same thing. So it's just, you don't realize until you step away from it that wow, Kanye has a song. I know he's a controversial, topic, but it talk about I'm full 5 seconds from wilding. I got 3 more
Yes.
days to Friday. I'm pretty sure we were about 6 to 8 months from just
Hmm.
accepting the realities of this is where our life is going to end and be here. And so, very fortunate that was able to immigrate to the United States as a refugee trying to reclaim asylum here, and yeah, the US, for all of its complexities, breathed new life into this brain of a child that read Napoleon Hill when he was 11. Part of what kept me, I think, sane as a kid was I was curious about the world around me. So I would read often and it would expand my imagination into what was possible. I read the stories of Carnegie and SB Fuller, those guys that was selling newspapers and then turn that into, empires, or the stories about your talisman, choosing PMA, positive mental attitude, and negative mental attitude, and how both of those can work in your favor, or like the reinforcement policies, or like how you can leverage your situations as reinforcements for you to do well, and you can pull that from positive reinforcement. So like as a kid, 11, 12, these are the things that I'm learning, ingested into myself, because mind you, I've been told that I would be the president one day. So
Who told you that?
everybody,
I love it.
so I'm like, I have to live up to this. Like if I'm going to be the president, I have to be smart, I have to be educated, I have to be well spoken, and I have to know
So
things.
you have to
And
figure it
so
out. You have to
so
figure it
like
out. Yeah.
innately behind me, I think people was just encouraging a smart young kid to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was also excited about it because when I learned something new, it excite it excited me. Even to
Mhm.
today, I just bought a 2003 car, so it's like 22 years old,
Mhm.
and I just got fascinated with like fixing the
Mm.
cooling system, and
Okay.
I took
Okay.
it to AAA, and then like $600. I'm like, bruh, I'm gonna
No,
do this
I'm gonna
myself.
do it myself.
Guess where I went? YouTube, figure it out. Car's running smooth as day. And it's one of the most exciting things I've done in the past month. Fixing the car with my hand that I sit in and feel comfortable driving. So, anyways, but yeah, so that's how life started, right? Just arching back, disruption at a very early age. And then this kind of pocket of time where a lot of things are in there, right? Abuse, fascinating growth experiences, engagement with religion in a way that caused separation, or just finding confidence in self in a world where you're a skinny, stuttering kid without structure, without father, without the support that other people have. And then moving to America, this vast place of opportunity, yet realizing that you are at the bottom of the totem pole again. And so the journey to where life is, obviously today it looks easy and it looks like, well, of course, you were destined to be there given how you show up today. And in a way, that's true, because without the obstructions in my way, maybe I'm in a better state or maybe I'm
Mhm.
not. But I do know that where I am today, in a large part, had everything to do with the level of adversity in the
Mhm.
way that I've navigated the adversities in my life.
I
And
love that.
so we talked earlier about recognizing dopeness, recognizing energies, recognizing these things. I move with a level of confidence that sometimes intimidate people because you haven't been what I've been. And I'm not saying that to like
Mhm.
wish you to experience the
Mhm.
things I've experienced, but against all odds,
Mhm.
I believe that I've risen from a place where
Yeah.
many people, even my family members, right? We all experience
Yeah.
the same environment in different
Mhm.
ways. And the way that thing affected us, the
Mhm.
way we responded to it has been different. And so,
Mhm. I
um,
love that. I think that that is so testament. Like if I like, and sometimes you can't even put like a name on it or an understanding around it. But there's a, and I'm gonna just not use the word confidence, but there's a way that people who I'm gonna say move. I don't know how else to describe at the spiritual. It's a spiritual plane, like it's a plane in life where it's like you just know that your life has a purpose and a meaning behind it, irrespective of whatever the world around you is happening, that you walk this earth differently.
I think that that's true. I believe that's true. And sometimes you run away from that because
Because it can be scary.
it feels too burdensome.
Yeah.
And other times you embrace it. You know,
Hmm.
that's why everybody doesn't become MVP in a
Yeah.
basketball
Yeah.
league. Everybody doesn't win the most valuable player in like the
Mhm.
Champions League. The person that rise to the moment. And I'm not saying that I'm an MVP in that light, but what I'm saying is the characteristics that you need to succeed in life, it's
Mhm.
molded in the daily kind of navigation of the struggles that's before you. And to be fully transparent, I'm navigating challenges today that in many ways are huge because they're all mental now. They're not like, okay,
Mhm.
I
They're
can
not
jump.
real. Like they're not
They're
like,
not
yeah.
physical. They're not in
Yeah.
front of you.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm leaning into the fact that a lot of what I've experienced, though the environment was constrained, was all mental.
Hmm.
You know, because I look at kids today navigating challenges and the way they respond to it, it's not necessarily how I responded to my challenges. I wanted to like crush it. I wanted to like go after it. You want to argue with me in spelling? Bro, do you know who I am? Like I would walk around and spell stuff with my finger in the air. Like, what do you mean you know how to spell photosynthesis? Spell chlorophyll, right? You know, like doing all these things, but I would come at you mentally. And then today I'm struggling with this fatigue and, you know, part of being in the space for 9 years. And I'm like, okay, I need a break. But then always been a hard worker. I've
Mhm.
always plowed through. And so there are
Yeah.
different challenges and nuances to how you respond to things.
Yeah.
But in most cases, rising to the occasion takes a lot of mental fortitude.
Yeah.
And that occasion, you know, could be a graduation or it could be just recognizing that you need rest.
Hmm. So I, so a lot of times I say you, like you are someone who I think is the epitomizes I've taken more out of adversity and adversity is taken out of me. And so would love to, and but what did I say earlier? I said typically I like to wind down.
Let's keep going. Let's
Then
keep
you get a
going.
point. You get a point. We're gonna keep going. So I want to start. I would love to double click now on what sort of the adversity, because that was the next thing that really fascinated about me to you, and I think also what brought you a bit on the Tech stage. You know, is how you've what you're unlocking from I'm gonna say connecting purpose to the journey that you've had to and still navigating in life, and maybe you could talk about some of the things that are unlocking that are now benefiting others. I think it's like, get ready world, listen to this. Go.
I For the longest I've been running away from a few things. In life we try to like beef up our weaknesses. I think people tell you that. They're like, "Oh, if you're weak in this thing, go get better at it." And oftentimes those are really good advice for young people and so to be more well-rounded. And I found that I've been trying to beef up my weaknesses that my strengths are also just like, bro, like come back to me, you
Mhm.
know? And
Mhm.
throughout this entire experience of mine, it's just been connecting with people. The kid that couldn't talk, you know, was a huge connector then. And the kid that can speak freely is a huge connector now. But I thought, or society told me, that if I'm not strong in these other areas, then
Mm.
I'm not good enough. So I need to
Mm.
beef up the technical. I need to beef up the understanding of this and that. And it all comes down to the same thing. The reason I've been successful in all the spaces that I've been in is because I was able to connect and articulate myself.
Yeah.
Go figure, right?
Yeah.
Articulating myself.
Mm.
And so recognizing that over the past couple of years to kind of pull me back into eliminate the weakness build. Like
Mhm.
there's too many people in this world that if I'm not good at something, somebody is going to be
Yeah.
really good at it. I'm
Mhm.
not going to tell you I need to beef up my ability to understand quantum theory. Like I don't need to know that. And I would
Mm-mm.
run away from it because there's somebody who is just as passionate about that or more passionate that if I ask them a question here, they would like excitedly tell me. So what I've been trying to do is just how do I leverage this currency of mine, which is my connective tissue, to not only build but connect communities and connect people. And so internally at Google, when I got to Google, very excited to be there, I got thrust into this leadership role to lead the Africans at Google community, which is a community of Africans working at Google. And just like, okay, like, y'all want me to do that? And it just became this thing where over the years, people just gravitate towards me, or like I gravitate towards, people, and really create spaces where people can not only feel comfortable, but see themselves. I started this Jollof cook-off in San Francisco where only the guys would cook and would talk trash, and 200 people come out, and people are like, 200 black people in San Francisco, something must be going on. It's good food, good energy. But all of those things, I thought it was soft skills that weren't as important because everybody tell you to like beef up the hard skills. And then it turns out we're in this very technical world where people are like, where are the soft skills? Who knows how to navigate ambiguity? Who can articulate visions? Who can talk about things in a way that the average person can understand? Yes, I need you to know how to do the technical stuff, but we got somebody who can do that really well. And so I've just really leaned into this stuff and try to understand where I can add value, recognizing that I'm no longer running away from this connective tissue that I have as a person. And so, in my natural form, after about 7 years at Google, I thought I needed to diversify my identity and not just be the guy that works at Google. And so, I found venture capital as a space that blended all of the things that I cared about. My entry into Google was as a recruiter, and as a recruiter at the highest level, you're going to find a needle in the haystack. And so that same approach was layered with your ability to connect with people. And so early stage venture capital is purely relationships. It's purely
Yeah.
connection. So I'm finding that all the things that I've already been good at all this time is something that is truly needed in spaces where I can connect cultures, people, and opportunities. And so that's what led me into venture. And today I lead the deal team for the Black Angel Group. It's one of the largest Black investment syndicates in the world. We have about 350 professionals from the biggest tech companies in the world. And we invest intellectual and financial capital into startups, Black founders, Asian founders, white founders. We look for amazing opportunities. And then Africa unlocked for me 2 years ago because I've always wanted to go back home. I've always wanted to reconnect and try to redefine the narrative that was once a captive narrative to now a narrative of freedom and choice. And
Mm.
so I took a solo trip to Jamaica about 3 years ago, and people are like, why are you going to Jamaica by yourself? This is crazy. I'm like, well, I'm crazy. So I'm going to go to Jamaica by myself and drive around the island for 14 days and see if I come back. I'm back. So that means it's successful. But in the experience, I found that it's the same thing. It's
Mm.
people, it's community. And one experience stood out for me that unlocked Africa. I'm in St. Elizabeth, Black River to be specific. I'm at the Pelican Bar. It's the bar on the water where people go to. It's Instagrammable, all that stuff. Met this Canadian Jamaican lady. You're Canadian. And we just kicked it off. We're talking, and I'm like, hey, can I come visit your house? Because I want to see how you're living. She talked about She's growing her food at home and, raising, livestock. And those are things that I cared about. And in the future, I want to do. So I went there, saw her husband, the rabbits, the goats. It was fascinating. And I asked her, hey, can you please take me to the store so I can get some spices? Because I love to cook and I cook really well, if I do say so myself. And she took me to this spot. And as we were getting stuff, there was an older lady, 80 plus years old. And she called her to come to me. And she said, look, he's one of us. And this lady, shorter than me, I looked at her and she like squeezed my cheeks. And she said, oh, look at you. You're one of us. Welcome home. And in that moment, it dawned on me that this idea that I should go everywhere else and spend my dollars or like experience culture, and having not done that to Liberia in Africa, it just became clear that I needed to go back home.
Yeah.
And so going home in 2023 truly unlocked this passion to see how I can add value. This kid who was once told to be the president, who don't want to do that anymore because I want to live longer and I want to keep scuba diving. Um, it just really ignited this passion of mine to really find ways to connect. And on my trip to Liberia for the first time in 30 years, I organized a conference with some friends to bring 200 Liberians together, government, tech, agriculture, to talk at the intersection of innovation for the country. The following year, I went, back to Africa. I was in Kenya, launched a venture summit called Silicon Exchange, and the goal was to kind of close funding gaps for Silicon, Savannah founders and bridge them to the Valley in California. Today, I'm advocating immensely for African founders and trying to find pathways that we can not only bridge the technology gap, but bridge the education gap, bridge the funding gap, and bridge the mentor gap. Because everybody tells you Africa is the future. It's somewhat kind of creepy when you hear people talk about Africa in the ways that's so capitalistic. But there are a lot of opportunities for kids like me who are selling, water on the street that could turn out to be a better version of me.
Yeah.
And so how do we unlock opportunities within these creative minds to then create opportunities, for others? So
Yeah.
leveraging this thing that I've always tried to like run away from, like the guy, all you have is social skills and soft skills, to now be one of my biggest superpowers. And I feel so confident about where we are headed in the future. So that's how I've been trying to connect purpose with opportunity. And it's fueling me because I'm getting really excited talking about this.
Yes.
But yeah.
Well, you're exciting me as well because I'm on a little bit of a similar pathway, and the trip to Morocco really started to unlock that. And very shortly, I'm going, like in a couple of weeks, heading to Jamaica for a trade mission, right? Like, and that just unlocked organically after coming back from Morocco. I didn't seek it, I didn't ask it, and so I'm like, okay, there's something God is telling me here, and what happens if I put a little bit more intention and purpose on this. And so thank you for sharing that. And there's something I actually wanted to I wanted you to finish, but there's something that when you started that piece about strengths and weaknesses, I just want to invite something. It's a concept. It's not mine. It's actually from Simon Sinek. But I think it would resonate with you, where he says, like, do away with strengths and weaknesses. The truth is characteristics and attributes. Right? Because when you know your characteristics and attributes, then what you should be doing is seeking those spaces where those characteristics and attributes are strengths.
Or amplified.
Right? Amplified.
Yeah.
Because the same characteristics and attributes you have in the wrong environment will be seen as a weakness.
Look,
and when
let me just double tap on this really quick. And it's a funny analogy, but I grew up in Oklahoma City when I came to the US. I went to an all-black high school, and some of the spaces we share wasn't the safest. But what you learn as a high school kid is you learn to observe in those environments. And you know what's about to pop off. For folks outside of America, when something's about to pop off, it's like some commotion is about to happen. But you just know that by paying attention. You know when John walks in the room, when Day-Day looks that way, when somebody twitched this way, you know what's about to happen. And the funny thing about all of that, which in that environment is a survival or like, oh my God, wrong environment. In the corporate space, in venture, these are quality skill sets that if you lean into somebody trying to tell you about their idea, you can look at how they're presenting.
Yeah.
When you're engaging with someone, you can see how they're carrying themselves.
Yeah.
You know when somebody's like twitching,
Mhm.
and it helps you make decisions in a
Yes.
different environment that amplifies growth and all these different things,
Yeah.
or like decision making for the betterment of your goals.
Yeah.
Whereas in another environment, it's like, oh man, something about to pop off. It's about to be
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
attributes and characteristics in the right environment and the wrong environment is something that's profound.
Yeah. I love it. Wow. So, first of all, you are such a delight to interview because all I have to do is ask you like one question.
Sorry,
No, no,
I talk a
no,
lot
no,
now
no, no,
because
no, 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 no,
I'm
don't do that. Don't,
I'm free
no,
to
sorry.
talk
I'm
and
giving
I
you
can
this.
talk and I don't stutter.
I love it. I'm giving you that sorry back. I'm giving you that sorry back because
That's okay.
I
Oh,
was
that's
as
good.
fascinated. I
That's
was
good.
as fascinated with you today as I was sitting. I remember sitting at Jitex Africa in the investor lounge, leaning back and just I felt like a kid at a campfire, just listening to an incredible, amazing story that inspires and uplifts. And so, thank you for doing that again. I am gonna get control of this interview now, though. But let me step back into the seat of interviewer. I am going to take you through what I call our rapid thrivers.
Okay.
And so, when you think of someone who inspires you, who comes first to mind?
My mother.
And I know, so this is another podcast episode because
Look, I
I
tell you
already
this,
know.
and I'm happy to talk about her because I think my mother, everybody says this about their mom, which everyone is entitled to. But to bear 6 children, be abandoned with them on a refugee camp and not run, and made sure that every one of us had the most important thing, life
Yeah.
and staying alive. If you meet my mother, you would be very surprised because
Yeah.
the things she's endured, I have not comprehend another human that I've met. And yet her joy is unwavering. And so
Yeah.
she's stubborn, and that's just what it is.
I
Get
love the
annoyed,
pictures you
you
shared
know.
of her. We love
Yes,
mommy.
get annoyed, but when you sit back and you think about the things she's had to endure and how she's still strong and showing up for herself, yeah, I just can't be more inspired than any
I
other
love
human.
it. Thank you. What is a daily activity that helps you with your thrive?
Workout.
Okay, we talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
Squat, pull, push. What is a memorable book that has helped you with your thrive?
I'd say The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Never
I've
heard
been
of that
listening to a
one.
lot of books recently,
Mhm.
but Ta-Nehisi Coates' Water Dancer, it's a fictional book on the enslaved,
Mm,
and it really opened my eyes to the word enslaved versus
mhm,
slaves,
mm,
because enslaved personalize the individual, and
mhm,
the book talks about the experience of enslaved Africans
mhm,
from the perspective of a daily person. Like, you're a woman, lives in Toronto, you have a life, you have emotions, you care about people, you get sad. And when you hear about the stories about enslaved Africans, nobody humanizes them. Nobody talked about, Joanne probably, had a crush on that boy down the street.
mhm.
And, they had these fights, but he gave them superpowers.
Yeah.
And so they were able to liberate themselves. And I found that to be the best written fictional book that I've read. And I've read it twice. And yeah,
I
that
love that.
always comes to
I love it that it's a new book and for this 300 and I think you're 330 30. I think that's the episode. So first one, I love that. What is an app that helps you with your thrive?
I hate apps. But
You work for YouTube.
yes, but I hate apps because I just get sucked into them. But YouTube, I'll say YouTube, because
It's my favorite app. It's one of my
I
favorite
I
apps. The
spend a
period,
lot of time.
you know what my favorite app is?
YouTube.
No,
What?
the period app.
Oh, the one that reminds you that you're not you're not going back.
Right. The period, it tells you like you can put everything in there, like a whole bunch of stuff. And actually, yeah, I
It's
love
like
it.
a
It's a great
calendar for your life, and it's
yeah,
so
it
personalized.
is very personalized. But anyway, go on. I digress. Go ahead.
No, YouTube, I'd say, because I check YouTube for just, I'm a sports buff,
Yeah.
like Oklahoma City Thunder, and like I know it's boring and it's like cliche, but consuming content about the things that makes me happy,
Yeah.
keeps me happy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And I work at YouTube, so it's also like
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of
Makes sense.
cool.
You should like the product you work for. And as you move through life, what is one misconception that people have of you as they see you?
I think today people think I'm arrogant.
Okay, we kind of
Um,
covered that earlier as to
yeah,
why.
people
Yeah.
think I'm arrogant, or like they think I think too much of myself, and I say,
Hmm.
yes, you're right,
Yeah.
because I do think too much of myself in a
Mm.
way that I won't allow myself to go into spaces where I'm devalued. I won't allow
Mm-hmm.
myself to be in
Oof.
environments where you don't recognize the additive nature of my humanity.
Yeah.
And just truly choosing self. I went through a patch where I lost some strong friendships, and I had to ask myself, am I doing something
Mm.
wrong to lose these friendships? Or like people did things to me that caused me to end the friendships.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, what is it about me that people feel the need to like
Mm-hmm.
come at me this way? And it dawned on me, I don't think it's me. I think sometimes in spaces where you show up confidently, people's insecurity is louder and it
Mm-hmm.
causes them to react and project. And sometimes their projection comes out to be like physical or like through
Yeah.
words,
Yeah.
and they try to make you feel small.
Yeah.
And my entire life people have tried to make me feel small, whether it's intentionally using words to me or the spaces that I couldn't have access to. And so, yeah, I walk with my head very high.
Yeah.
And if you're bothered by that, you should
Yeah.
ask yourself why, or maybe ask me why.
Yeah. I have to share something in this moment because I actually feel a lot of emotions coming up right now. Wow. So first of all, tomorrow, so to everyone on the podcast, I batch my episodes. So tomorrow, May 24th, we're recording this on May 23rd. I'm hosting a leadership summit. It's called LEAD, LEAD, and LEAD stands for Learn, Elevate, Activate, and Disrupt. And it's the tagline has been because real leadership doesn't follow the rules, it rewrites them, right? And what you just said about, and even just your retort, right? Like you think a lot about yourself, and I think that's like the most powerful thing I've heard in a while. Yeah, like in response. Yeah, I do. And when you said that, like it felt so like I want myself to be able to say that. Yeah, I actually do. Because that's the only way I can lead. Is because I'm learning about myself. I'm understanding myself. I'm being willing to push myself and pressure myself. And what you just talked about, right? Like is and allow myself in the spaces that I occupy to be expressing myself at the highest possible level that I can for myself because it contributes to the space in a way that nobody else can because they're not me. Like there was so much about what you just said there that really just resonated with me that I had to share. And it's not, and the reason I shared tomorrow's event is because how it came about was very divine. You canceled me on Sunday. No, it's true. You canceled me on Sunday, but we had this conversation on the eve of my event. And I feel like I needed to hear that because I think I'm taking your words to share at that event. Because I almost feel like I should clip this and share
And
it.
I'm in a happier state to probably deliver now
To deliver that. It's
than
fine.
it would have been a Sunday when my heart was in my hands, like, just close it out, close out the game, please.
So I'm going to see if I can do this little bit of a production and actually clip this. And if I do, I will share it with you because I think what you just said there is really powerful. So thank you.
Thank you.
And so now, where do we find more of you online?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm in and out of Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Augustine Wiah. I think I'm probably the only one with the name on
Yes. Yeah, I
LinkedIn,
believe so. I believe so.
unless my dad is on.
Yeah.
But
Are you an Augustine Jr.?
yeah, I'm an Augustine Jr. It's a
Oh, I didn't know
funny
that.
story,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Okay.
My dad. I have three older brothers, and
Oh,
the typical thing is
yeah.
the older
Yeah.
son
Yeah.
is a
Gets
junior.
the first one gets the name.
And
Yeah.
it's a funny story. Apparently, my dad and his shenanigans, he had a junior, and my mom's like, no, we're not going to do that because my dad had a son, and that was not with my mom. And they had two other boys since, and they decided to not name
Either them,
a junior.
obviously.
And so when I came, I met my dad in 2023 in December in Liberia for the first time in 26 years. And so there was a lot of conversations about all the things. And I asked him about this. I'm like, why am I a junior, bro? Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm the youngest boy. He's like, my dad is 3x what you think I am. Like, he's so charismatic. Like, he would
Okay.
like take you to the moon and back. And probably
Okay.
why he was such a polarizing human,
Okay. Okay. Mhm.
And he's like, yeah, I just knew from the day you were born, like your mannerisms. I knew you would be a junior. And then I asked my mom for her version. She's like, nah. I couldn't. I wanted my son to be the junior, so I took the name. So I tell you, my mother, you don't play with her. I was like, that's gangster, bro.
Yeah, that's
She was like, I took the name. You were my junior. No. I was like, okay. No, seriously, my older brother name is now Augustus.
okay.
Like,
And
this
the
is,
now or it was?
well, ever since I've been knowing him, his name is
Yeah, it's
Augustus.
Augustus. Okay.
And he's like maybe 10 years older than me. So
Yeah.
at some point they changed
Yeah.
his name and he
The
made a
change.
choice.
Yeah.
So yes.
I love
But
it.
no, you can find me on LinkedIn, Augustine Wiah. I'm on Instagram, _STINO. I'm the dark matter.
Mhm.
I have a space on Facebook, but I'm not really there. I will say something about, we were talking earlier about art and things that I'm passionate about. I'm working on this project that's futuristic, building a world-class art residency in Monrovia, Liberia, with a friend of mine who's an artist who I'm a collector for,
Mhm.
and it's one of the more exciting things that I've been involved with. We're just getting started. Found an architect out of Mexico City.
Wow.
I mean, this guy is phenomenal. So more to come. There's not like a
Okay,
recent
so we'll
date on
follow
this.
you. We'll follow you. We'll follow
But
you. Make
yeah,
sure we
in
say
time when
yes.
you see yourself going to this small country called Liberia to
Mhm.
go and visit the Bridge residency,
Who
you will
did
know
it?
that you
Yeah.
heard it here and it
Here.
came to fruition.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. So, as a final parting question, finish this sentence for us. I am empowered in my skin when.
When I feel like myself, anytime I show up as myself, I think I'm my best self. And I try to maintain that consistency because I recognize people look to me for things, and
Yeah.
I need to be who I am first for myself, first for my family, for my loved ones. And whenever I show up as myself, it's validated and it gives me that empowerment to keep going and doing the things that I love to do. So I try hard actually to maintain like who I am,
Yeah.
because if you lose it, you just go down a windy path. I remember it's hard to remember the many versions of yourself
Yeah.
if you show up differently.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to just show up as the one
That's a-
version of yourself that you
right.
know. And I
I love
found that
that.
to be true because if you meet a 2-year-old that knows me, or you meet the CEO of Google,
Those both say the same
they'll
thing.
tell you like, yeah, Augustine,
Mm.
that's Augustine, like
Yeah.
the hoop wearing African face bald black guy that shows up with energy all the time.
I love that. I love that. I love that. And I love you and I appreciate you. And I'm so blessed that I came into your vortex. And thank God for Jitex Africa. Like,
Shout
that
out
was
to
quite,
Jitex because I'm still connecting with people from Jitex, and we're
like it
thinking
is.
about,
I
you
feel
know,
like that's an unlocked life in a way. Like, I
yes.
didn't think possible or imagine. Like, anyway, so much
I
tentacles from
mean,
it.
when would you have a chance to meet a cool ass black woman on a Friday morning that lives in Toronto with an amazing gap, Nigerian with the hair popping? When would you get a chance to do that if not meeting at Jitex?
Jitex Africa, right? I think I was the only person with this hair color in the whole venue.
Your crew came. You guys came.
Oh, we came, right?
officially. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, as an audience member to your show. It's like, okay.
I love it.
The women
Yeah.
of firewood, right?
The Firehood.
The Firehood.
Yeah.
The Firehood came and they saw,
Showed
and
up.
dare I say,
Mm.
conquered.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, honestly, for this very edifying experience with you and sharing energy with me. I love it. And to everyone that's listening, I trust you're like, no, don't finish, but everything's got to come to an end. But this is where we say, we're out. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
There you have it. I trust that you're feeling more empowered in your skin. And as the late Dr. Maya Angelou says, when you get, you give, when you learn, you teach. So it would mean so much for us at EIMS if you share this episode and tag us or teach an insight that you learned from today's episode on your socials and tag us. And remember to go over onto iTunes and leave us a review or follow us on socials at Empowered in My Skin. But most importantly, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.